Hello, in this video I'm going to explain how part 1 of the Cambridge Proficiency Listening Test works. So in part 1 you have 3 option and multiple choice tasks to complete. So for each question you have to choose the answer which fits best between A, B and C. You have 3 extracts to listen to, each of which could be either a monologue or a short dialogue. There are 6 questions in total, worth 6 marks, and that means that for each extract you're going to have 2 questions, and each question will be worth 1 mark. These are the instructions that you'll get in the exam, and as you can see, for each of the questions you have to choose the answer A, B or C, which fits best according to what you hear. Some other things to know which could be useful: you'll hear each extract twice before moving on to the following extract. So you'll hear extract A twice, after that you'll hear extract B twice, and so forth. Before each extract, you'll also get 15 seconds of reading time, and you should use that time carefully to make sure that you know what to expect in the coming extract. So let's take a look at an example question. Okay, pause the recording for a moment, read this information through, and once you've read it, then restart the recording. Okay, so what do we see here? Well, first of all, there's a context given. And the context can be really useful to help predict what you're going to hear in the rest of the recording. So use the context to orient yourself. For example, who is going to be speaking? What is the context? Where are these speakers, or where is the speaker? And what could they be talking about? If we think about this in advance and try and predict the context, this will help us to have a better insight into the recording when we start listening. If we look at the question itself, we also notice that very specific information is given, and this helps us to know what we need to listen for specifically when we're listening to the recording. So check which information is really relevant to your answer. In this case, we're listening for what the consultant is doing when he mentions not just mobile phones, but specifically mobile phones at meetings. Let's now look at the answer options A, B and C. One thing we can do here is look at how the answer options differ from each other, and this can sometimes help us to have an idea of what we need to listen for. For example, options A and C are criticizing and warning. And if somebody is criticizing or warning, the chances are their tone of voice might be a little bit different than if they're simply explaining. So by comparing the answer options to one another, we kind of get an idea of what we might need to listen for. Notice, of course, that that's not all we need to look at, because there's more specific information in the answer options as well. So we need to check for specific details and see what exactly each option means. For example, option A is about criticizing the overuse of technology, not just the use of technology in general. So that means that only overuse would make this answer correct. If we look at option B, then this is explaining how a mobile phone can boost a person's image. And here, one of the key words, of course, is boost, so make better rather than make worse, for example. And in option C, the warning is not just a general warning about using mobile phones, but it's a warning against making them visible at meetings. So check for specific details. What exactly does each of these options mean? In the actual exam, of course, you'll be listening. In this case, what we're going to do is put the extract on the screen for you. You can see this now at the bottom of the screen. So pause the recording now. Take a moment to read through the extracts and then choose the option which you think fits best out of A, B and C. Once you've chosen, then restart the recording. Okay, so if we look in the extract for where mobile phones are mentioned, we find that information around here. There's a tendency to suppose having phones on the table makes you look important and in demand. So at first glance, we might think that option B is the logical option to choose. But as we listen further, we find that mobile phones are discussed again. In fact, it hints more at a propensity to get diverted from the issues at hand if you have a mobile phone in front of you. In other words, mobile phones can be distracting, and a notepad and pen will be more effectual in suggesting you're on the ball. So actually, this is fairly critical of mobile phone use. So what's important here to notice is that the information you need might not just be in a single sentence, but can be spread across several sentences. And in this case, that more or less rules out option B as being the correct answer. So we're now left with a choice between A and C. Now the question is, for option A, is the speaker criticizing the overuse of technology? And if we think about how specific or general this is actually rather too general for our purposes, because the speaker is not criticizing the overuse of technology in general. The speaker is just criticizing the visibility of mobile phones in this particular context. And that means that answer C fits best according to what we've heard. Okay, so to summarize, a couple of tips for part 1. Orient yourself to the context in the time that you have to read the questions before you start listening. Read the question and answer options carefully. Pay attention to the speaker's tone of voice, as this can add extra information beyond the words which you hear. And make sure that you choose the option which is closest in meaning. Okay, thanks for listening.